I'm James Kiesling, and on behalf of my project partner, Diane Chong, I'm happy to present the results of our research today. Over the past 60 years, defense acquisition reform efforts have tried to address persistent problems of cost growth, schedule slippages, and performance shortfalls in defense acquisition programs. Echoing the findings of numerous defense acquisition studies, David Packard said, "We all know what needs to be done. The question is, why aren't we doing it?" The prevailing theory advocated by GAO is that acquisition culture and systemic incentives motivate defense acquisition participants to deviate from sound acquisition practices, resulting in poor acquisition outcomes. Fundamentally, our research questions the assumption of human rationality underlying this theory, which we refer to as the incentives narrative. Our research asks, is the GAO incentives narrative well-founded and conclusive? Also, is it likely that systemic and predictable mental errors known as cognitive biases significantly contribute to deviations from sound acquisition practices? We were motivated to research this topic after we found there was little to no application of major developments in decision science theory, specifically cognitive biases, to defense acquisition. To conduct our analysis, we compiled a dictionary of 44 cognitive and incentive-driven biases. We then evaluated a selection of case studies and assigned bias codes for passages indicating deviations from sound acquisition practices, or situations that were likely susceptible to one or more decision biases. We also reviewed the rationale and supporting evidence underlying GAO's incentives narrative. Our analysis identified 347 discrete instances where a decision bias was evident, including a significant number of both cognitive and incentive-driven biases, indicating that cognitive biases likely contribute to deviations from sound acquisition practices. We also concluded GAO's incentives narrative to be neither well-founded nor conclusive. So why does this matter? Even if DoD acquisition reform efforts were finally able to eliminate all of the systemic and intractable incentives identified by GAO, our research indicates that this would not eliminate or mitigate the likely influence of cognitive-driven decision biases. Therefore, acquisition reform efforts must address both categories of decision biases to improve acquisition outcomes. We also found that although GAO's incentives narrative was not originally represented as the singular correct view when it was proposed in 1992, it has persisted largely unchanged and unquestioned ever since. Lastly, regardless of whether decision biases within defense acquisition programs are driven by cognitive or motivational factors, we believe the implementation of well-established bias mitigation techniques and strategies are likely to yield positive results. Thank you very much.